So in this video, we're going to go over a very important new feature in C# 7 called pattern matching. First, we're going to define what pattern matching is and what it will allow us to do. And then we are going to go over different syntaxes in which you can use pattern matching. And I'm going to do all that in a context of a new example that I will be putting into the same project. Remember, the one where we're putting in individual brand new short examples that are not related to the applications that we have written. So with that said, let's define what pattern matching is. As Bill Wagner, one of the C# team members and a C# programming expert, defined it as, it is a process of testing that a value has a certain quote-unquote shape and then extracting information when it does. This will make sense to you when we start doing actual practical examples, but for now, this is the definition of what pattern matching stands for. Then we're going to go over the pattern matching syntax. There are two of them. Is expressions and switch case expressions with when conditionals. With that said, let's go ahead and create our example. I will go ahead and create an abstract class. I will say abstract class person. And the person will have a constructor, and it's going to take in is angry as a parameter of the constructor. And we're going to use the expression bodied constructor so that we can keep it short and also just use the features of C# 7 that we've learned. And we're going to say is angry, which is going to be a property that I will create shortly. And I'm going to say is angry. Then public bool is angry, which is the property that's going to be set. And that's it. This is our person abstract class. And then I'm going to go ahead and create two other classes. Normal person. So normal person. And it's going to inherit the abstract class person, so they can inherit its constructor and the is angry property. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say public normal person. It's going to take in bool is angry, and then it's going to pass in that is angry property into the base constructor, which is going to go to, now let me just close this, is going to go to this constructor and then set the property on the base class. And we've gone over this, so you should know all about this process. Then I will make another class, and I will call this super person. And that will also inherit from person. And let's do the similar type of thing. We're going to say super person is going to then take in is angry as a parameter, and then it's going to pass that into the base constructor and say, well, pass is angry to that. Close that up, and we should be good to go with our classes. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go down here, and we're going to initialize these classes that we've just created. So I'm going to say normal person equals new normal person. And I'm going to say is angry? Yes, true. And I'm going to say person super person equals new super person. And the super person is going to be angry as well. Now then, I will create two methods, break the wall. And let me actually copy this here. One of them I'm going to pass in a normal person. For the other one, I'm going to pass in a super person. And then I'm going to have another method called what can you break? And I'm going to have three of these. I'm going to pass in a normal person. And I'm going to pass in a super person, and I'm going to pass in null. Now, you'll know exactly what all this means just in a few minutes, but for now, let me just write the code so that we have it all ready and set up. So we have the break the wall method, and let me generate one for this guy as well. And we should be good to go now. Let me fill out the break the wall first. So I'll put this on the top. And here's what's going to happen. Break the wall method is going to help us understand the is expression, and the what can you break will help us understand the switch case expression with when conditionals. So let's go ahead and start with the break the wall. Let me take this out, and I will say if person, and we're going to have this as person, not normal person. So same thing with here. If person is super person, and we're going to say this, create an alias, then we're going to say person is normal person, and I'm going to alias that as well. And normal person is angry. Then we're going to say console, right line, and we're going to say wall broke. Else, we're going to say console, right line, and we're going to say wall didn't break. Great. So let's go over this. What's happening here? This, my friends, is what I call pattern matching. So what we would do before, if we wanted to see whether a class is of a certain type, we would have to do this. We would have to say if person is super person, if that matches up, then we would have to say, okay, well then create a new variable and say, this new person, then would say, okay, well then say that, this person that you passed in, we need to cast that to a super person. So instead of var, I would say super person, make it clear. And I would say as person. Or you could have done the same thing, but you could have done it a little differently. And these both are equivalent. Let me get this right. Okay, so this would do the same thing. Just that this would have to have a different name so they don't collapse, or clash rather. And this would be the same thing at the end. What you're doing is you're saying if the passed in person is a super person, then convert that and cast it, right? You're converting that into the type that you want. You're casting it. This is casting. You're using the as, or you're using the shorthand for it. Both do the same thing. Let me take this one out. What pattern matching allows you to do is it allows you to combine these statements together. So here you're saying if the person is a super person, then right off the bat, don't do this thing. Don't, create another variable and then do the as. Just do it all in one line. Just by putting an alias in front of it. This is the variable name. So this gets converted into super person, right? This is now the super person that you can use. It has been casted to super person and assigned to this variable right here, which is super person. So then you can do it in one line. And you can chain this stuff together. So you don't just have to have one, you can have multiple conditions. You can say person is super person, or if person is normal person, and you can have another condition. You can access properties from this variable that you have casted this person to, or anything else for that matter. In this case, we're saying if the person is a normal person, then cast that to normal person, and then put that into this variable. And then from this variable, use anything you want, which is a property that we have, is angry. So we're saying if the person is super person, or if the person is normal person and angry, then the wall will break. Otherwise, the wall will not break. So that's the is expression. Now let's go ahead and talk about the switch expression with when conditionals. Let me create a switch statement here, and I will pass in a person. And right off the bat, you should notice something. Switch now can take in custom types. Before, it would only be able to take primitives, but now it can take in custom types. Person is a custom type, and you can pass that into the switch and then check it for certain scenarios. So let's go ahead and do that. First, I will say case superperson. And by the way, this does not have to match the name of the custom type. This could have just been S and it would have been fine. But I just wanted to clarify it and, put the entire name just to be clear. So once again, this name doesn't have to be the same as your custom type. You can have anything else you want here. This is just for the example, and I'm trying to keep it clean and readable. That's all. So I'm saying superperson when superperson is angry. I'm going to say console. Actually, let's copy this so I don't have to write it down. And inside, I'm going to write the following. I will say can break stone wall, titanium wall. And then we're going to break. Great. So this is our first case statement inside of a switch. And we're using a when conditional. So essentially, number one, we're able to use a custom type. Secondly, we're doing the same thing. We're saying if this person has been casted to superperson, and it is a superperson, then assign that to this variable, which is superperson. And then from that superperson, through the when reserved keyword, you can use any properties from it. So you can go as granular as you want. You don't just check for whether it's superperson or not. You can say if it's a superperson and then it matches other conditions on that variable, which in this case is superperson. So we're saying, hey, if the person is a superperson, and that superperson is angry, then do this thing. In this case, we're just printing that it can break stone wall and titanium wall. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create another case statement. And I'm going to say if it's a superperson, it's not angry, it's just a superperson. Then I'm going to say it can break stone wall, but not titanium wall. So once again, in this case, I just didn't use a when conditional, so you can do that as well. Now, I'm going to say if it's a normal person, so normal person, and then assign that to a variable. And in this case, I'm going to say if it is a normal person and the normal person is angry, and I'm going to do that through the when reserved keyword. I'm going to say normal person dot is angry, then can break stone wall as well. And then I'm going to say if it's a normal person, and I'm going to take the when conditional statement. In this case, it will say cannot break stone wall. So that is it. And then I'm going to have actually one more. And in this case, I'm going to say if it's a null. And if it's a null, then we're going to print something like the wall will stay as it is since nobody will be hitting it. And here is the interesting part. Remember the default statement inside of a switch case. The default basically says if none of these match, then I will hit the default. The default now can be put anywhere. You don't just have to put it at the bottom. You can put anywhere. So I can put it at the top and it will still go through all these guys, all the case statements. And if none of the possibilities match, then it's going to hit the default afterwards. So I can just say default here and then say console, right line, And then I'm going to say nothing broke, and then break. So that's it. Now we have it fully populated. One more thing to know is that each case statement creates its own scope. So this superperson is only within here that's available. This superperson is only available within here. Note that you can use the same variable and they don't clash because they have the same name, but they have a different scope. The other thing is that in these case statements now, in the switch case statements, the order matters. So it will go from here to here to here to here. And if this one matches, then it will never do these guys, right? Because it's going to break. But so that means that if this was at the top and it was a super person, then this would never be hit. So if I do this and it's a super person, then this one will never really be a hit because it's always going to say, see that? The switch case has already been handled by a previous case. So you really can do it, but it might confuse you as to why you can't put it underneath a more general case. And the reason is because order now matters. So in that case, we would have to put the specific cases at the very top to say whether it's a super person and there's some specific granular thing that we need to check about that super person. And then we can check the more general case. So that's it for pattern matching. And now let's go ahead and try to run through this example so that we can understand it even better.